Good morning, my friends. This is Paul, and I hope you all are having a Merry Advent or Merry Christmas, depending on how you interpret what time of year this is. Well, for us Catholics, it's still Advent. Anywho, I love making end-of-year lists. On my Facebook page, I'm doing a list of my top favorite memories. And so on my YouTube channel, I'm going to do my top favorite 3DS and Switch games that I played in 2018. Unfortunately, I haven't gotten enough time playing Go Vacation to make this list, but that did come out in 2018 for the Switch, and I believe it's actually a really fun minigame collection that also has a sort of open world. So I think you should give it a try. Review is definitely on the way. And with that, I hope you enjoy my choices, and they will all have footage from the reviews I did of it, so that instead of listening to this mug talking about them for who knows how long, you can just see snippets. So with that, enjoy the video, and until the next time, keep the faith, stay epic, God bless, and Merry Christmas. The World Ends With You final remix for the Nintendo Switch. I cannot praise this game enough for literally everything else it does. Everything in the game just oozes with style, the music is amazing, all of the original tracks are still here, as well as some new songs, and all of the songs that you love are now remixed, some of them being remixed more than just once. There are some songs that actually have up to 4 remixes, and so you're really getting your music's worth for basically double the soundtrack of the original game. Captain Toad Treasure Tracker, and as you can see with the box art, I'm going to be reviewing the 3DS version. This is one of the best looking games I have ever seen on the 3DS. If I ever get around to my best of the 3DS, once the 3DS is officially dead, this game's probably going to be among the top 2 best looking games on the systems. Like I said, it's nearly on par with Super Mario 3D World. Obviously, these screenshots are going to make it look awful, but when you're actually playing the game, it's an absolute spectacle, especially when you see the bosses. If I didn't know that this was a port of a Wii U game, I would not have guessed, because it seems like it was custom made for the abilities of the 3DS, and it makes it that much more enjoyable to play. Now, the big selling point of this 3DS and Switch re-release is the fact that there are levels based on Super Mario Odyssey. This was done to offset the fact that in the original release, you could play 4 levels from Super Mario 3D World, but because Nintendo doesn't allow you to play that game on either the Switch or the 3DS at present, you now get 4 Mario Odyssey levels to replace them. And these were by far the highlight of my experience with Captain Toad. I was absolutely enamored by the clever ways in which the concepts from that game were translated into a don't jump, rotate the diorama type of setting, and I especially loved how they ripped the music straight from Mario Odyssey, and I was like, whoa, we're seeing and hearing all this on a 3DS? Final Fantasy XV Pocket Edition HD for the Nintendo Switch is a really ugly looking game. It also ditches the open world nature of the PS4 version in favor of a more truncated, mission-based structure. And while it may not have all of the little details of the PS4 version that made it great, like for example, listening to classic Final Fantasy tunes while you're in the car, explorations, hitting up the diners for side quests, it still provided sort of a best of the best. All of the major story points are here, pretty much all of the voice acting is intact, pretty much all of the music is still here, and it's really top-notch stuff that was obviously made for a better system, but yet still sounds right at home here on the Switch. The game is really easy, but it's also a lot of fun. Granted, the battle system pretty much boils down to how fast can you mash the Y button, but the moment-to-moment gameplay features some really mind-blowing sequences that are almost as fun to play as they are to watch. You really feel like you're in the action when you're fighting against the Leviathan, and you have to do quick time events to make sure that you're in the right place at the right time. Now, a lot of people are just going to skip this because of the fact that it's truncated and watered down. But I would highly recommend this if you're one of those story alone, gameplay later types of people, because the original game I heard dragged on and on with a lot of side quests, and this game has very minimalistic side quests and more so of getting straight to the point. Also, it has a pretty reasonable price. So I think you should definitely check it out, especially now that it's on the Switch, and not only is it handheld, but it's in HD. Admittedly not that great of HD, but it's better than nothing. So definitely check this game out. Warriors Definitive Edition for the Nintendo Switch. This is the type of Nintendo Switch game that is absolutely perfect for long car rides and train rides because there's just so much to do, and I highly doubt you'll be able to complete this game, probably even if you play it nonstop for like a year. It'll be very, very hard to say. Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze for the Nintendo Switch. Now, there wasn't a whole lot different from the Switch version than the Wii U version, which is what you're seeing because I only rented the Switch version. All they really added was a funky mode, to the point where I even joked around in my original non-footage review that they should have just called it Funky Kong Country Tropical Freeze if they really wanted to market this as a brand new Donkey Kong game. But the experience was still just as much fun as it was on the Wii U, and despite what you might think, Funky doesn't automatically make it on autopilot. There still are some brutal challenges even with the new character. But while this may not have a bunch of new content, it's more so of it lets you appreciate all of the content that the Wii U version has that might have been either hard or impossible for most players. The game is absolutely gorgeous on either system, even if it only looks marginally better on the Switch. And overall, this is one of the best platformers ever made, and I really wish more people would sort of show this game the appreciation, because there were a lot of people at the time of the Wii U version's release that actually gave Retro death threats because they'd rather work on this than Metroid Prime. Well, you can cease your griping because there is going to be a Metroid Prime 4 for the Switch at who knows when, but it's coming eventually. Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze is an absolute testament to how you can take a Wii game, hardly change anything, and yet still make it awesome. And then when they re-released this game, they took a Wii U game, added one new thing, and still made it awesome. Let's just let Retro Studio do their jobs and leave it at that, shall we? Towerfall for the Nintendo Switch. This is a really fun indie game that, while it has a single-player mode, it's obviously designed with multiplayer right out of the box. No, it does not have online multiplayer. This is harkening back to the Nintendo 64 days, where people were huddled around a TV screen screaming their heads off, and that's exactly what happened when I played this at a party. It's really cheap, easy to learn, but hard to master, and overall, it's the type of game that usually when I tell people about it, they're a little bit hesitant, but once they play it, they're sold. My one friend even said, I gotta convince my sister to let me get this for the Switch, because this is awesome. It's also made by the same guy that made Celeste, so if you really like that game, you should definitely give this a try. WarioWare Gold for the 3DS. Now, before I get into the review, in case you're wondering, Paul, how come you don't have any pictures for this? You did that for your Captain Toad and your Luigi's Mansion 3DS reviews. Well, that was because I don't have a 3DS capture card. The second reason is because this is a micro game collection, and micro games are over in like a minute. If I were to have pictures, it'd probably look a little something like this.
Captain from Animal Crossing. Blathers from Animal Crossing. Rover from Animal Crossing. Reese from Animal Crossing New Leaf. Cyrus from Animal Crossing New Leaf. Timmy and Tommy from Animal Crossing. Urbosa from Breath of the Wild. Mewtwo from Pokemon Gold and Silver, I think. Young Link, based on his appearance in Majora's Mask. Sheik, based on a rejected design in Twilight Princess, actually from Ocarina of Time. Zelda, based on her design in Twilight Princess. Goomba, based on Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga. Koopa Troopa, also released for Superstar Saga plus Bowser's Minions. Kix from Animal Crossing City Folk. Celeste from Animal Crossing Wild World. Resetti from Animal Crossing. Boo, based on recent appearances, first debuted in Super Mario Bros. 3. Pac-Man, based on his Pac-World appearance. Alm, based on Fire Emblem Echoes Shadows of Valentia. Pikmin, which coincided with the release of Hey Pikmin. Toon Zelda from Wind Waker. Bowser from Super Mario Bros., based on his more recent appearances. Toad from Super Mario Bros., again, based on recent appearances. Celica, based on Fire Emblem Echoes Shadows of Valentia. Nail Corrin from Fire Emblem Fates. Robin from Fire Emblem Awakening. The Guardian from Breath of the Wild. Diddy Kong from Donkey Kong Country 2. Villager, based on his appearance in Animal Crossing Wild World, with hair on him. Cloud from Final Fantasy VII. Tiki, based on her appearance in Fire Emblem Warriors. Mipha from Breath of the Wild. Ike from Fire Emblem Path of Radiance, based on his appearance from Radiant Dawn. Behemoth of an amiibo, Detective Pikachu from, well, Detective Pikachu. Japanese Rob, known as Robot, over there. Adult Link, based on his appearance in Ocarina of Time 3D. Ness from Earthbound. KK Slider from Animal Crossing. Yarn Yoshi from Yoshi's Woolly World. Bayonetta from, well, Bayonetta. Falco from the Star Fox series, based on his appearance in Star Fox Assault. Sonic, based on his Dreamcast and Beyond appearances from Sonic the Hedgehog. Wolflink and Midna from Twilight Princess.
Oh my gosh, the voice acting is really good in this game. It's really refreshing to hear Wario in a major speaking role for the first time, well, ever in Mario history, even though this isn't even a Mario game. And all of the other people in the game are voiced really well as well. Now, it takes some getting used to if you're not used to the zany antics of the WarioWare series. It's basically like one of those dumb Saturday morning kids shows that used to come out in the 90s. And I love it. I especially loved how many Nintendo-themed microgames they had, including connecting the Joy-Cons on a Nintendo Switch, guiding Link as he flew on the Deku Leaf in Wind Waker, pointing at the right channel on a Wii menu. Stuff like that is an absolute joy and almost a celebration of Nintendo's greatness. Are there any problems with this game? Not really. I think there's a lot of replay value, especially because you get an achievement system. There's a ton of stuff to unlock. Not all of it's fantastic, but taken as a whole, it means that you have a ton of stuff to do. With 800 microgames and a ton of mini-games on the side, you're going to be playing this for a long time. The story mode is rather short, but thankfully there are more microgames than just in the story, so there's kind of a gotta collect them all vibe to it. With that, I would say WarioWare Gold is one of the best valued minigame or microgame collections available on any platform at the moment. And because it's on the 3DS, you can take it on the go. And it provides to be an extremely entertaining thrill ride. It may not have the deepest story, but it has some amazing voice acting, surprisingly good music, and a lot of Nintendo fan service. You should definitely give this game a buy. If you're not a fan of WarioWare, maybe a rent. But given how much stuff there is, if you like WarioWare, I would not rent this at all. I would just go out there and get a copy, because this game is phenomenal. And seeing as this is my first WarioWare game that I actually put time in, that's saying a lot coming from me. So newcomers, you can feel right at home jumping into this. Radiant Historia, perfect chronology for the 3DS. And this game actually just came out. Never gonna forget the release date for this one. It was Ash Wednesday and St. Valentine's Day. And it's also one of the few games on a Nintendo system where all of its DLC was available within just 2 weeks of the game's launch. That's mighty impressive. It makes Smash Brothers look kind of like a joke in comparison. In fact, once you beat the main story of the DS version, you get access to an entirely new segment where you meet a new character called Nemesia, where she allows you to explore possible histories that can actually affect some of the events of the original timelines. And it also gives you possibilities of like, let's explore what could have happened if certain things in the storyline went a little bit differently. That in turn gives you new perspectives, it gives you an excuse to get new dialogue in the DS timelines, and it allows for a truly spectacular visual masterpiece when you get to the true final boss. It also adds more lore to the already story-heavy original, filling out a couple of the blanks that the DS version left to your imagination, and providing true closure to a story that was kind of somewhat a cliffhanger in the original game. I really liked the addition to this new story content, and even better is if you've already played the DS version. Okay, challenge here. If there is anyone who has played either of these games, DS or 3DS, without first reading Nintendo Power, let me know in the comments, because I am not one of them. It takes me a long time to get into new games. And I really like how, like, you don't have to guess, like, anything. The game just, like, explains absolutely every little detail. And that's the kind of thing that, honestly, I wish games like Zero Time Dilemma would have done. As brilliant as that game's story is, they still left a lot to the imagination. Radiant has stories like, nope, we're going to explain every little thing, including the root cause of the whole series. Oh my gosh, it's just so brilliant. Undertale for the Nintendo Switch. Now, I did not get into this game because of some hyper radical fan base like a lot of people accuse Undertale lovers of. In fact, my friend had been begging me to get it for years, and I kept putting it off, and then when it finally came on the Switch, I was just like, okay, cool. Now I have no excuse, because I don't have to worry about hard drive space or long load times that Steam games usually require. Undertale's the kind of game where morality is the game itself. Basically, you have the choice to either show mercy, show no mercy, or a mixture. And depending on how that plays out, that can affect how the game ends, how the characters treat you, and even sometimes the difficulty of the game itself. It's the type of game where when I go to Mass and I'm trying to do the examination of conscience, I think, wow, let's think about how Undertale treats this approach, and have I taken the Undertale route, or have I taken more of the, what the heck, I'm just going to do my own thing. Undertale's the kind of game where, as a standalone game, it's kind of on the simplistic and at times somewhat stupid side, but if you look at it from the standpoint of, this is what it's like when a video game tries to teach you objective morality, then it's an absolute masterpiece. Don't go into it expecting a good story, but go into it expecting pure, amazing emotions that you probably never thought you'd feel in a video game. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate for the Nintendo Switch. The cool thing about this game is all you have to really do is start saying the numbers, and then even people like my mom, who can hardly hold a controller, get excited for this game. You just say, okay, it's got 876 songs, 103 stages, 104 if you count the training stage, 74 characters, and 1,297 spirits, and counting. There's a lot of stuff to do, and it's probably going to take you a long time to do it. And that's not even counting player interactions to go along with all of this craziness. But Super Smash Bros. Has always been known for its content. So, you're probably asking, well, what makes this iteration ultimate? I don't think I need to tell you that this game is utterly amazing, and I would highly recommend it full price, however you can get it. Plus, the DLC is only $25 altogether if you get the Fighter's Pass. I love the little touches that Sakurai and his team added, like the slow motion zooming in when you're about to get a dramatic kill, the radar that shows how far away you are from the screen's border, even rethinking how the items work, which, mind you, is probably the most tweaking to the item since, well, Melee itself. And it's really hard to explain if you're not actually playing the game, but everything just feels so much more satisfying. You feel like you earned it. When you get a reward in, say, any of the modes, you really feel like, wow, I put up an ultimate fight to get this far. And it's one of those you gotta feel it to believe it kind of deals. Not only that, but the game features 103 stages. Mind you, only 4 of them are brand new. But the way the stages have been tweaked to make it feel like all of them are brand new, because of the way that the stages have been given a graphical makeover so that they look right at home on the Switch, because some of them haven't been around since 1999. And so it's great to see all these familiar stages, and seeing as there's so much variety, there's sure to be something for everyone. What I love about these spirit battles is that they do a wonderful job of recreating exactly how a fight against that character would be in the series of Origin. For example, when you're fighting Groose from The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword, there's going to be a lot of bombs, because Groose built the Groosinator in Skyward Sword. Or when you're fighting off against one of Mega Man's bosses, you're going to hear the respective remix. And you might also have, say, against Gutsman, you'll have a Mega Man character that loves throwing people, because Gutsman loves throwing boulders. Again, if you're not familiar with the franchise, you're probably going to be like, what the heck is going on here? But for those of you that are a super fanboy or fangirl about a particular series, you're going to love how it's represented. I love how even underdog franchises are shown here. Minish Cap, for example, has never been represented in any form in any Smash Bros. Game, even though it's been out since 2005. Wasn't even in the Chronicle in Super Smash Bros. Brawl. But yet, there's a Spirit of Ezlo. Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle gets spirits. And that wasn't even published by Nintendo. Shantae gets a spirit. That was made by Way Forward, which I believe is an American company. They're just showing all oodles of oddities and, whoa, they're referencing that ancient Nintendo game? And it's absolutely mind-boggling how many ways they're able to come up with 1,297 of these. And mind you, the game's not even finished updating. Whew! And to think we haven't even touched on the adventure mode yet. So, the official name of the biggest single-player mode in this game is called World of Light. And it's the first time we've experienced a full-fledged story in a Smash Bros. Game since 2008's Subspace Emissary in Brawl. And I'm just going to state right off the bat, this doesn't even compare. The two are radically different, and there are likely going to be various opinions of which one is better. In my personal opinion, I like World of Light a heck of a lot better because it doesn't have that many cutscenes, but it makes up for it by having a lot of fun and variety. It has, again, more crazy Nintendo fan service, and it sort of has a Breath of the Wild feel as you traverse an overhead world map that's actually quite huge, a lot bigger than I thought it would be. And you do various Nintendo-related things to get through the world, be it solving a Zelda puzzle, or flying on a Star Fox R-Wing, or even traveling on a trip around the globe fighting against Street Fighter people. It's amazing how many ways the music and the settings and the fights are able to convey iconic moments in your favorite video game series, including even some of the Blight Ganon boss fights in Breath of the Wild. Even those are represented here, and it's amazing. Not only that, but with the spirits in the adventure mode combined, you get a good excuse to listen to this game's absolutely massive soundtrack when you might otherwise not have had a chance or not have been willing to give a song a listen. And you might be like, oh, I heard that in the adventure mode. That's cool. Let's add it to my playlist. So, as you can tell, World of Light is utterly amazing, and it features an absolutely spectacular finale that's among one of the best final encounters I've ever seen in a video game. However, I'd be lying if I said that was my favorite part of the game. Nope! For me, it all comes down to the game's absolutely wonderful, jaw-dropping, awesome soundtrack. There are 876 songs currently, and more to be added with DLC and possibly future patches. And the song selection is already massive from the get-go. You start out with 717 tracks in the base game, and all of the remixes are unlocked from the start. So all you really have to unlock are originals or remixes that were already in past Smash games, as well as all original tunes, such as the Final Battle tune. So as a result, you get to be like, whoa, so that's how Bowser's theme from Super Mario Bros. 3 sounds right off the bat. Not only that, but they have a massive collection of orchestra pieces. There are some lyrical songs, chiptunes, and overall the fan service is out the window. I mean, just the sheer size of the soundtrack alone should make everyone quit griping and say, you know what, Sakurai? I am satisfied with the amount of work you put into this game. Having this many songs in one game makes me feel like joking around with my sister where she says, well, Paul, I have 1,000 songs on my iPod. And I'm like, but do you have them all in one place? That's a different story. Only 20 some odd songs were cut from the entire series. They even brought back songs from the original Super Smash Bros. On the Nintendo 64, songs that you didn't think needed to return, but yet they did just because they could. And I think that sums up Super Smash Bros. Ultimate really nicely. A lot of things are done just because they can. And normally people complain when something is done without the fans asking for it. But Super Smash Bros. Ultimate manages to work out that fine medium of what the fans want versus also what the fans didn't know that they wanted until after they saw it in action. For example, there's not too many new fighters compared to what you'd expect from a Smash Bros. Games, but the ones that are here were heavily requested, like Chrom, King K. Rool, and my personal favorite of the newcomers, the Inklings. I really love how strategic they make the game and how the ink dynamic really makes you stop and be like, okay, micromanaging in a Smash Bros. Game. This is a heck of a lot better than what they did with Olimar in Brawl, although he's still there as well. Everyone is here, for better or for worse. As much as I hate Pichu, Pichu's still here. And all of the characters have been given vast improvements to their engine. Mind you, some of them have not been around since Melee, so they've had to be tweaked so that they can keep up with the likes of the newcomers. Every single fighter, as a result, feels fresh, and they feel like they could be evenly matched against each other. And because of that, the game has various options that allow you to tweak the fighter settings. So, say if you're not as good as someone, you can give yourself a handicap or an underdog boost. Say you and your buddy can't decide on which stage you want to play as. We'll just do the new stage morph option where the stages switch from one to another periodically depending on what you set the settings to. Do you want to play an 8-player Smash but are like, well, I don't know, they kind of restricted it in Smash for Wii U. Well, guess what? Every single stage accommodates for 8-player this time around. With some stages even increasing in size so that it can support 8 players. It's absolutely amazing how only 16 stages, or was it 15? It's hard to keep track of because of the way videos on YouTube explain it. But yeah, most of the stages are here and they look absolutely gorgeous. This Fountain of Dreams stage looks like how I remember it, but yet at the same time looks leagues better than it did in Melee. And it's especially pleasing to see the 3DS stages, of which only 2 managed to not make the cut into this game, in HD and on the big screen for the first time, and they look amazing. As I said, everything looks like it falls in place. There's this unified art style that means the likes of someone realistic like Solid Snake and someone like the Inklings can coexist in the same universe and they can still work together. This is a masterful achievement to be put on a tiny itty-bitty game card that's barely bigger than an SD card. The amount of variety here is simply staggering and huge and impressive. And I think Sakurai deserves a huge, rousing round of applause for all that he's managed to squeeze into this massive fun fest of Nintendo and occasionally third-party glory.